What's going on, everybody? It's time for another ranking because Pixar's brand new film Onward is coming into theaters this weekend, and I'm excited to be talking about this ranking because now we got 22 Pixar films to talk about, and this is pretty hard to do. Every single time I have to come down to this ranking, it gets a little bit tough. I'm wearing my Pixar shirt, and I'm sure you guys are ready for this. Make sure to comment down below and let me know what your guys' ranking is, and of course, if you guys are new here and you guys love rankings, if you guys love talking Pixar, or in general just love talking movies, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button so you never miss out on any early movie reviews or in general geeky content like this. But without further ado, let's get started. And also do stay tuned towards the end of the video because I will be announcing the winner of the Onward tickets I was giving away from my review. So look out for that. Coming down at my number 22 is going to be Cars 2, which is probably my least favorite movie out of the whole bunch. Now, actually, per se, I don't think this is that bad, but I never care to rewatch it. I do like some of the spy antiques of the whole entire movie, and while this movie probably shouldn't have focused on Mater, and it definitely is way too long, I think some of the nice elements of this film is with McQueen, of course, when he is actually prevalent in the movie, and I do like some of the animated set pieces in here. But besides that, it's not deeper by any means in there, and it really feels like it was totally made as a cash grab, and definitely a cash grab for toys. And when it comes to all the Pixar films, this is one of the least memorable movies out of the bunch. Coming in at my number 21 is going to be Cars 3. One that I actually wasn't really looking forward to when it came out, but I still enjoyed for the most part. Again, kind of falls into that. I don't really feel there are many memorable moments in here besides maybe the rodeo kind of showdown type thing with McQueen and Cruz Ramirez. I do like Cruz. I think she's a really cool character, and I think the addition of seeing McQueen kind of become this old schooler now, where we first saw him start as a rookie, was quite nice in here. The world is still really cool. The animation is great, but again, Cars 3 just kind of falters again because coming off of 2, it's tough because Cars 3 really doesn't go anywhere from Cars 2. It doesn't really progress the characters anymore since then from the first one. It's totally like they retconned it, and I just feel like it still is missing its original charm that the first Cars had. And coming in at my number 20 is going to be Finding Dory, which is an adorable, fun, and charming adventure that I don't care to rewatch. It's one that when I come around to it, it still has wonderful animation. It's great seeing a little bit more back history with Dory, and I really liked a lot of the new characters, especially Gerald. I mean, Gerald is just hilarious. He's hilarious. But I also loved Hank the Octopus. I think there was a lot of dynamics with Hank that I thought was really cool. The animation with him was quite unique. And again, I think when it comes to Finding Dory, this is a movie that I think is good, but not great. And especially coming off Finding Nemo, which is still a near perfect movie, it's tough to compare the two. When you're looking at all these movies, it's not that it's a terrible movie, it's a good movie that has a lot of great elements to it, but it's one that, again, when it comes to this whole Pixar filmography, it's one that just doesn't grab me to come back and rewatch. Coming in at my number 19 is going to be Brave, one that usually this falters a little bit lower on my list, but I went a little bit higher on this one because I did get to rewatch it, and I still think it is a good movie with Merida having a really good character arc throughout here, and there have been a lot of great humor with the Scottish themes, and of course with the three little brother bears. I just love that and think they're adorable to pieces. The reason Brave went up this time around was because I really appreciated it this time around, and I just had a really big smile on my face watching it, and kind of just taking away the pre-notion that the reason that this usually falters on my list is because it doesn't feel like a Pixar movie. It does feel more like a Disney movie, and it feels more in that Disney animated category, which is not a bad thing. There's a lot of great Disney animated films, but it doesn't feel like that Pixar film, and it doesn't feel like the Pixar magic, which is still why it falters on this list, but I still think Brave is an entertaining watch for sure. Families will enjoy it. The bears are adorable, and I think all the elements with the magic is actually the one element that does feel like Pixar. I mean, my number 18 is probably one of the best animated movies of all time, and I'm talking about like animation standpoint. I'm not talking about the film itself. That is The Good Dinosaur, which seriously, like, my jaw was on the floor from a lot of the great animation in here. And this is an emotional one for sure. A little bit too dark for the kiddies, if I'm being completely honest with that. The opening of this film really hits you in the gut, and the opposite of this road trip movie, of course, instead of it maybe being a caveman and a dinosaur, no, it's a dinosaur taking care of a caveman and wanting to get home. The character arcs in there and the thematics with family are kind of quite strong in there, and I think this world of the Good Dinosaur was quite unique. I wouldn't say this goes under the radar when it talks about Pixar movies and people saying what are their favorites, but I think this is one that not enough people got to see or even talked about, and I think this is one Pixar should have pushed just a bit harder, especially because of all the hard work that went inside the animation. And coming up at number 17 is going to be Cars. Yes, Cars. This is a really charming movie. This is one that's actually grown on me over the years, the more and more that I've watched it, and especially the more that I've actually grown up and even gotten to go to California Adventures and really see Cars Land. I really just appreciate the way that they were able to design that and bring that world to life. But the first Cars is a movie that really speaks a big message about being humble. And I love what they were able to do with Lightning McQueen's role in here. I think what they did in here was actually quite unique and makes it one of the better Pixar films for that capability of when it comes down to a message. We've seen that in quite a other few movies, but I think Cars does it so special. And this world that they really bring to life with, again, Cars, take a shot for every time I've said that in this video, because dang, it's probably the last time we're going to be talking about it. I really like what they were able to do with Lightning McQueen's character. Mater's a great supporting cast in here, and this is the way that you should use him. And really, in general, Doc Hudson becomes one of my favorite mentors in animated films. Coming up at number 16 is a movie that has actually faltered the more that I've seen it, and that is The Incredibles 2. While I still think this is a very fast-paced, energetic movie that is totally entertaining, I love that it picks up right after the first Incredibles and really speaks a lot of different volumes to these characters and really what per se every single character is going about, especially because it still carries the same thematics of that midlife crisis that the first Incredibles had, but this time kind of more focusing in on Elastigirl, who is just fantastic. I love what Holly Hunter is able to bring to this role, but it's really what her story is, the thematics with her and kind of the growing as the aging superhero, but also Bob Parr now staying at home as a stay-at-home dad, and the way that he's having to take care of the kids while also trying to still support his wife and hype her up. There are different elements that Brad Bird took with this story that I really much appreciated, and of course Jack just stole the whole entire show. I still very much like this movie, but the one reason it's faltered is because I do think it is a little bit too long, and the villain is so predictable, especially the first time around, that I was like, God, every time it gets around to that, I wish it was just a little bit clever. But still, the animation here is great, and I'm gonna be pretty much talking about that with every single Pixar film, but really this one, the way that they were take on the villain and the action sequences were quite unique. And coming up at number 15 is going to be Monsters University. This is one of the ones that, ever since going to college and kind of going through it, this is one that's kind of grown on me more. Now, I do think this one thing, and I will always say this every single time I do a Pixar ranking, is how did they not have Boo at the end? How did they not have Mike and Sully telling a story to Boo before her first day of college? I think that was a total miss. I don't know if that was ever a thing they wanted to. I saw a thing that someone said, hey, this is what they should have done. I said, I totally agree, and I always like to mention it because that is one thing that I wish this film would have done with more an emotional crux. But Monsters University, it's a college humor movie. It's totally college party, but more Pixar and family-friendly type-ish. But I love what they were able to do with Mike and Sully's characters in here and really fundamentally show how they become friends. This is one of those movies that actually reminds me of the days of Ferris Bueller's Days Off and even 10 Things I Hate About You for some reason, carrying that same kind of quirk and comedy to it within an animated movie, and that's why I really much appreciate Monsters University. Coming up at number 14 is going to be A Bug's Life. Now, this one's usually always been lower on my list, but after rewatching it, while I don't think the animation holds up too much, I think the message and I think the humor all around here really holds up the most. This is a really clever movie, and I actually am in the minority. I think this is a better movie than Ants, which both came out in the exact same year. There's just something about the character of Flick and the whole con artist of the circus that I just really much have a blast with every single time I've rewatched this. And for me, I think I watched this too much as a kid, and it really kind of got stale for me, and that's why, like, the last couple of years, I've really not cared to ever rewatch it. It kind of becomes a chore, but after kind of taking a year or two off from this movie, it's been nice to kind of revisit it with new, fresh eyes and kind of just be like, man, this is a really charming and really clever movie that I'm happy that now is a little bit higher on this list. Of course, coming up at number 13 is going to be Up. This is one that I go back and forth on because I think the first act of this film is near perfect, and the other two acts are good. I think they're good, and I think the score is perfect. I think the animation is stunning, and I think the message and the character arc between Carl growing up and having to take care of Russell on this adventure is quite dynamic. I love the character of Doug and, of course, Kevin, and this world that they built up, of course, in Up. Again, that first act is so hard-hitting, but every single time I watch it, it brings a tear to my eye and really gets me swelled into the emotion, and really Up inspires you to want to take on your own adventures, and I really much appreciate it for that manner. Of course, coming up, my number 12 is going to be Wally. I love Wally. This is, I think, a near perfect Pixar film. When we go from this to Up, Up and pun intended, I don't know how I said that, but pretty much this going forward, I think almost all these films are near perfect. And when it starts with Wally, I love this romantic element to it, the silent film artistic moments to it in the beginning of this first act. While some people don't love how hard-hitting it is with the environmental stuff and some of the stuff with the bigger people in chairs, I can understand that, but it's something about Wally and Eva that really take me onto them and really make me fall in love with both of their characters so much that I'm swelled into this romantic sci-fi adventure that really every time I watch it, I just come away just blown away. And I can't believe Disney let Pixar make this movie, because it's absolutely outstanding that they were able to create this. And of course, coming up, my number 11 is going to be Coco, one that I just swelled with emotions, swelled with tears. And this is one that I think over the coming next maybe decade, this is going to be moving up in this list even higher up. I loved Coco. Again, almost near perfect for me. I love the music in here. I love the world of the Day of the Dead that they brought about into here. I love what they were able to do with this character and bringing this culture and making it feel like I was a part of this family. And really, it is one of the best Pixar films in recent years. And really, they've been having a kick with the last couple of years, especially with these newer films and these newer worlds that they decide to tackle into. Again, I love Coco to death. It's one that I just can't get enough of, and I love rewatching it, and of course singing Remember Me. Before I get to my top 10, guys, make sure again to hit that like and subscribe button. Let me know what your guys' favorite Pixar film. Comment down below your ranking as well. Make sure to also head on over to Sandwich on Films on how to see films early, and of course just a big thank you to you, and a big thank you to my Patreon supporters, because without you, I wouldn't be able to do this. My number 10 is going to be the brand new Pixar film Onward, which is one that really hit me in the feels. I mean, really freaking hit me in the feels. And I loved Ian and Barley's journey, and I love this new modern suburban fantasy world that they developed. And I remember when they announced it, I wasn't that excited for it. The first trailer really didn't get me sucked in. I thought it was cute, but once they add that dad element in there, it really makes this something special, and you feel the passion coming off the screen. And I think this is a movie that many people are going to be relating to, whether you have brothers, a sister, whatever. You're going to be able to feel that relationship with the siblings, just like how great Frozen is at doing it. But the thing that I love about Onward so much is that dad element, and really some of the feelings of guilt, regret, and the missing of someone but wanting to remember them at the same time. I think all of us have gone through that, whether the passing of someone that really affected us, and I think this is one of those movies that it's gonna hit you in the heartstrings, but the way it's able to tackle that same adventure inside this fantasy world is one of the best parts about it, and it absolutely blew me away with how great it was. Maybe this does have a little bit of a recency bias, but I actually think this is one of the ones that's going to go a little bit up and be one of the most underrated Pixar films of all time. Coming up at number 9 is going to be Finding Nemo. I love Finding Nemo. Again, I mentioned it earlier that this is a near perfect movie. Maybe I think the pacing falters a little bit in the middle of this film, but besides that, this is just such a fleshed out, beautiful ocean world that when I was younger, I loved the ocean. I was so fascinated with it, and I loved the whole tank gang. That was actually one of the parts that I felt like was missing so much in Finding Dory, was their dynamics and the way that they were able to really break apart the pacing of the adventure going on, and of course their dynamics going on in the tank gang and in the world, and how humans are being affected and how humans are affecting them. Kind of puts a different perspective in your face within that whole dynamic. And of course Willem Dafoe as Gil is just such a great character. The sharks are great, Squirt and Crush are beautifully characters, and of course Marlin and Dory are such a great duo together. Coming up at number 8. Now understand this, My ranking for Toy Story will be a little bit different if this was a separate list, but to be a little bit fair for this Pixar ranking, I wanted to be in spreading out a couple different things. My number 8 is going to be Toy Story 4, which I still say is a perfect movie and a perfect epilogue to the Toy Story franchise. Maybe some of us can have a little bit of grievances with Buzz and what they did with his character, but I loved it. I did a little bit of a video essay talking about all these characters and the way that they were able to, this was more of a Woody story. I understood and I really appreciated, because I would say in the next 10 to 12 years, we're going to get some sort of Toy Story adventure with, I would say, Buzz and Jessie that kind of furthers out their dynamics a little bit more with the older toys. But I liked what they were able to do with Woody, taking him on this new adventure and really taking us on this new adventure and showing us that, like, Woody's trying to, Bo Peep's trying to open his eyes to a rediscovery. And sometimes we all need rediscovery in our lives. And I think what Toy Story 4 is able to do with all that is one of the most fascinating elements of the movie. And it's one of the reasons that really grabbed me and attached me to it. Plus, the movie's emotional, plus it's hilarious, and really, Duke Kaboom, Canada's greatest stuntman, is a great new character. Ducky and Bunny are hilarious, and this is one of the movies that I definitely, it's one of the most rewatched films already for me. I love rewatching Toy Story 4, and I will contend this, it has the best animation out of any Pixar animated film of all time. It's freaking unrealistic how they were able to pull this off. I don't know how they did, but it was a great epilogue to the whole Toy Story trilogy, and I loved it. Coming up at number 7 is going to be Monsters, Inc. This is one that I just got done rewatching and had such a fun time with. This is one of the ones that really stuck out to me. I love the world of Monsters, Inc., and I love the characters of Mike and Sully and their dynamics with one another, and the way that Monsters University is able to build upon that relationship is one of my favorite elements, and the way that Monsters, Inc. is now able to further develop these characters is one of my other favorite elements of it. It really feels like hand in hand a great thing. Of course, the character of Boo is so adorable, but also so wonderful to the story of freaking Monsters, Inc. This is a very fun movie that kind of takes the horror elements of Monsters, but also flips it on its side and changes it up just a bit. Love what they were able to do with this, and it really puts a big smile on my face every single time I rewatch it. And of course, coming up at number 6 is going to be Toy Story 3, the Prison Break movie of Pixar. This is something I love about Pixar, and they do such a good job of this, is a lot of their animated films are hidden with different themes and a different type of style, whereas you look at Cars 2, it's a spy film, and of course Onward is a fantasy movie. Now you look at Toy Story 3, it is a prison break movie, and it's hilarious from top to bottom. It has fantastic animation throughout it, and this was a perfect ending to that original trilogy of course, Andy's story. Again, I mentioned that Toy Story 4 is a great epilogue to it, but Toy Story 3 brings a lot all together. I remember seeing this movie, and when it comes to that last sequence of them waving goodbye to Andy, I was just sobbing in tears. All the Toy Story films, if you haven't followed my channel, are some of my favorite films of all time. They always will be. I'm a giant Toy Story fanatic, and Toy Story 3 moves its way up there. I mean, personally, if it was for my list, if I wasn't being fair, it would be pretty much all the Toy Story films 1 through 4, and then the rest of the Pixar films. But I like to be fair, and of course, Toy Story 3 falters in that. The last thing I want to mention is how much I appreciate Lotso Bear. I think he's such a good villain, and really you come to understand his problems. And my number 5 is going to be Inside Out, a movie that puts a big smile on my face, but breaks me to pieces with the imaginary friend. Bing bong, bing bong. Oh my god, maybe that's because I had an imaginary friend when I was younger, and there's a lot of different elements that falter into that, but seriously, Inside Out is a movie that really brings a lot of big smiles to my face. It's one that really captured me into this brand new world, one of the best animated movies of the last decade, and I just eat this film up every single time. It is a little bit tough to watch, it is pretty emotional, but it's one that I love to death. And I don't know what it is about this movie, but I love it so much. Coming up at number 4 is going to be Toy Story 2. This is just perfect. This is a perfect sequel to the original Toy Story movie. There's just something about this one. It was the first movie I ever saw in theaters. It's one that I always go back and forth with it being my favorite Toy Story film, or in general being my favorite Pixar movie. It's one that I love rewatching, and I love the adventure and the way that they were able to split up both characters. Of course, Woody and his gang and Roundup gang with Al's Toy Barn, and of course, Buzz and the group trying to go and save him. There's so many fun dynamics in there, a lot of different action adventure themes in there that really just throw me into chills and having a blast with this film. Coming up at number 3 is going to be The Incredibles, which I think is one of the most rewatchable movies of all time. I've seen this movie so many times. I used to work at this pizza place that always played movies, and I would always pick what movies were on, and I always had The Incredibles going on because the other 4 I didn't really care. It was like Cars, yeah, it was pretty much Cars and Incredibles was all I would choose from. The rest were not the best. We had Shrek for a bit, but that disc broke because people suck. But The Incredibles was the one that I could rewatch every single day for like all my 8-hour shifts and just enjoy it to pieces. To pieces, I would enjoy this movie. I would laugh. I would be in the action moments. The family elements are so perfect, and it's one of my favorite Pixar films because of all those great dynamics. Plus, Brad Bird just swings in and takes that midlife crisis to a whole nother level and made a Pixar film. I think this is personally the first Pixar film to be for adults, but kids can watch. Coming on my number 2 is kind of going into that same category with Brad Bird and what he's able to do with making an adult film that kids can watch, and that is Ratatouille. The most underrated Pixar movie that everyone forgets about, but I love to death. Remy and Linguini, I love their whole chemistry and the way that they are able to interact. The two different storylines with the humans and the rats are superb. And the whole concept of rats making food and wanting to be into this delicious food will put you into a starving coma, like depending on how hungry you could be. But it's a movie that really just puts a big smile on my face every single time I've watched it. I laugh, I get emotionally invested, and really Ratatouille is, again, the most underrated Pixar film of all time. Not enough people talk about this movie, and they should. Of course, coming up at number 1, it's the first Toy Story. This is a perfect movie. It's the most rewatched movie of my whole entire life, probably. I broke many VHSs of this film, and I love Toy Story to death. I'm not afraid to show it. I'm not afraid to say it, and I'm never going to deny that. I love this whole franchise to death. Pretty much, like I said, 1 through 4 would pretty much be my 1 through 4 for Pixar, but I wanted to be a little bit fair with this and turn up the list a little bit. But the first Toy Story is a movie that I just can't stop rewatching. It's one that I love to rewatch. Anytime I'm going to bed, maybe I'll just throw it on just for a little bit to kind of rewatch, get a little bit of a laugh in me. It's one that has a lot of horror tendencies to it, which I love with Sid's Room. It's just a perfect movie, and I love Toy Story to death, and now I feel like crying because of the score. Just, god dang it, Toy Story's perfect, guys. Toy Story is a perfect movie, and I can't wait to hear your guys' ranking. I can't wait to read your guys' ranking down below in the comment section. It's my favorite thing to do every single time we do one of these videos. So thank you guys again so much for watching this. I'll probably be re-ranking this again once Soul comes out, because I love rewatching Pixar. I love Pixar to death, and I can't wait again to see your guys' rankings. So make sure to hit that like and subscribe button so you guys never miss out on content like this. And of course, make sure you guys have a friend in me, and of course, to stay classy. So I'll see you guys next time. Because I'm dumb, to be honest, I completely forgot to say in the video who won. I'm so stupid, and I already put away all my equipment. Eric Cantrell, you have won on, I messaged you already on Twitter, but congrats so much. Thank you guys so much for watching this and in general enjoying. Thank you so much for everyone who had entered the competition. If you guys are curious on more giveaways, make sure to keep following me and watching my videos. I do plan to give more back to you guys, of course, in the coming months to years and all sorts of stuff as long as I do this. So thank you guys so much for all the support, and I hope you guys check out Onward very soon.